Okay, so do you struggle as a pastor to not do cult-like things then?
Do I struggle as a pastor to not do cult-like things?
Like, is it your instinct to try to control everyone, and you have to stop yourself?
No.
Okay.
I'll pause because
Yeah.
I really want to make sure I'm giving an honest answer to that question. All right. And I think this is the difference between the way I used to lead versus the way I lead now. Okay. So I think the way that I lead now is very much like I want shared leadership. I'm really like, that's a big phrase for me, not just to say, but to like, I want that. Like, I want shared leadership. I want people to have input. I want people to always feel comfortable to come to me to say, hey, we don't like this, or we do like this, or whatever it may be. Right. I also want to be quick to, when I'm in the wrong, when I've done something wrong, be very quick to say, will you forgive me?
Okay.
That's a big deal for me.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Is anything that you do wrong as a pastor something that is considered cult-like?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
no. I mean, like, the things that I have to be careful of is to not. I have to, like, when I speak, I can speak pretty passionately, like in conversations, and it can come across at times as if, probably more than I would like, it can come across as if Joseph's already made up his mind. This is what we're doing. It doesn't matter what I say in response. Right. And that can kind of be controlling, you know?
Okay.
And so that's the one area, though, that I feel like I have to really watch. And one of the greatest pieces of advice a pastor ever gave me was maybe 4 years ago or so. He said, as pastor, be the last one to speak in a conversation.
Okay.
When you're with leaders and you are making decisions, be the last one to speak and not the first. Because if you're the first, you tend to shut down conversations because people just go, well, that's just what the pastor thinks, and that's what we need to do.
Okay.
So that's why I shared leadership. I want to hear from people. I want to hear their thoughts. I want there to actually be healthy debate when there needs to be healthy debate. And so, but no, it's like but my younger self, though, would have been much more defensive, but would have been much more, I really don't want to hear from other people. Like, I've been praying about this. This is what I feel like we need to do. Charge, you know? And I don't think that's healthy. I think one of the things that I can do if I'm not careful is I can not communicate real well at times with the direction.
The listeners know.
Thanks. I feel like I don't communicate well sometimes to people around me about what I am thinking.
Okay.
Or what I do believe, what I feel the Lord is telling us to do, or the directions we're going in, or what we're doing. And that can come across as if Joseph's just kind of doing his own thing, not really asking for advice, you know, and that's not really my heart in it. It's just, I don't always do the best job of communicating certain things.
Okay. Here, like, it's like, okay, if I've heard that the pastor was stealing money, that would be a cult-like thing to do. Steal money from their organization. If I heard that the pastor was trying to control every meeting behind the scenes, that would feel like a cult-like situation.
Sure.
If it's like, is everything that you could, that's why I'm asking the question. Is everything that you could do wrong considered cult-like? Because I think I asked you the question the other time that
cult-like. I think sometimes you just have, like, we're all growing, you know?
Yeah.
And so you'll say things wrong, or things will come out wrong.
I feel like to church members, if they heard anything, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, okay, here we go, cult stuff.
Yeah, well, no, and I agree.
And that would be anything that you could do wrong at your job.
So what you're saying is, for pastors, anything they do wrong could be deemed as cult-like.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
That's what it seems like to me.
Okay. See, that's where I guess I would go. That's a pretty high bar. You know, like,
Okay.
In other words, like if you're saying everything someone does wrong is cult-like, like that's, I don't know, man. I don't know if I love that because it's not like, again.
I'm just saying that could be an accusation, like the president.
Right.
Anything the president does wrong is treason.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I see. Yeah, and I guess maybe the issue, here's the thing, would be like, is it constant patterns of those things?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like is the pastor constantly losing his temper with people?
Okay.
Right? That would be issues. You know, is the pastor constantly trying to emotionally manipulate the situation to try to get people to get on board with what he wants to do or to not be held accountable for his actions, right? Like, I think that stuff is spiritual abuse as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
When pastors do that, like, you know, like every time they get caught with something, there's some like emotional, you know, like crying or like, oh, this is what's going on. You don't really know how hard it is or da-da-da. And they're always excused for poor behaviors. You know, they're excused for having just outbursts by saying, well, they're young, they're growing. No, they're acting like spoiled kids.
Okay.
You know, no, they can't just yell and scream like that. No, that's not okay. And so I think when those are like patterns of behavior, you know, I said maybe that would be the thing.
Okay.
Is if there were patterns, not if they're like one-offs or it's happened a few times over a few years or, you know, like.
So if the president keeps making policy that favors some other foreign nation and not America,
right,
then we'll call him a traitor.
Sure.
So you're not a cult leader until you've.
No, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think the patterns are important.
Okay.
Yeah, like so for example, for me, right? Like if it got out that, hey, did you know that in all our elder meetings or in all our board meetings, Joseph's just, you know, like yelling at people or getting angry, or getting really defensive and, you know, like never lets anyone else talk or make decisions. Like if that was the case, that's huge red flags.
Yeah.
Right?
I think what I'm saying is anytime you mess up, I could throw cult leader at you.
And I do think that's one of the problems with the word cult being used so much.
Okay.
Because I do think that is starting to happen in our society.
Right.
I do in our churches. I do think people look at one
that's
thing.
kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I do think people look at like one action
and
go, well, they're a cult.
Yeah, okay.
You know, well, not necessarily.
Okay.
And I do think that you can, and I do think this happens too. I think you can have a really bad experience in a church where it was like spiritual abuse or maybe they were really cult-like. And then you go to another church and you hear the pastor say one word or one phrase that kind of sounds similar to what you heard in the previous place that you equated to being cult, and you're like, oh, nope, see, they're a cult too.
Yeah.
You know, I think unfortunately that may be occurring too often.
Okay.
And so, yeah.